Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, the Chief Judge for Federal District Court in Washington, D.C., Judge James Boasberg, is in the process of deciding if the Trump administration violated his order to turn planes around and return them to the U.S. Here are some things you should know about Chief Judge James Boasberg. This from the Washington Post. Who is the judge Trump wants to impeach over Venezuelan deportations? And that article begins, a federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from deporting Venezuelan migrants without due process under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a law previously invoked only during wartime. 3 flights containing more than 200 deportees landed in El Salvador after Chief Judge James E. Boasberg of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia gave his verbal order to return them to the United States on Saturday. The Justice Department argued Monday that none of the planes left the United States after his, Judge Boasberg's, written ruling came through, and that, in any case, the court had no jurisdiction once the aircraft flew over international waters. What happens next? After its attorney, meaning Donald Trump's DOJ attorney, refused to answer detailed questions at a Monday hearing, Judge Boasberg directed the Justice Department to answer by noon Tuesday exactly when the government believes his order stopping the deportation flights went into effect, when and how many flights took off, and how many individuals were transferred into the receiving country's custody. And now, friends, let's turn to the question of who is U.S. District Judge James E. Boasberg? I was interviewed by the Washington Post reporter for this story, and here's what he wrote. James E. Boasberg is a former homicide prosecutor who has served 23 years as a judge in Washington, appointed by presidents of both parties. He took over as chief judge of the high-profile federal trial court in the nation's capital in March 2023, where he oversaw disputes over grand jury investigations involving former President Donald Trump, including claims of executive privilege over then Vice President Mike Pence's testimony before a grand jury. His rulings were upheld by an appellate panel. A native Washingtonian, the 6'6" Boasberg played basketball for St. Albans School and Yale College, where he graduated with undergraduate and law degrees. He earned a master's degree in history from the University of Oxford. Boasberg, 62, who goes by Jeb, has a history of bipartisan support. President George W. Bush appointed him to the D.C. Superior Court, which oversees criminal and civil matters in the district, and President Barack Obama named him in 2011 to U.S. District Court. Glenn Kirshner, Boasberg's supervisor at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, recalled assigning him the toughest homicide cases. He called Boasberg a singularly remarkable prosecutor. I say that because he never lost a murder case and because he would never tell anybody he never lost a murder case. It wasn't in his DNA to talk about himself or his accomplishments, Kirshner said. Quote, I don't think there's anybody better suited or better equipped to handle these challenges to the independence of the judiciary or challenges to American democracy. I am grateful he's in the position he's in because he will remain loyal to the rule of law and the Constitution. So yes, I know Judge Boasberg well. Not only did I supervise him, but I handled murder cases with him. Indeed, I tried a particularly challenging and gruesome double homicide of a senior citizen brother and sister. And you know, you want to know the measure of a person? Try a murder case with them, shoulder to shoulder, day after day. Yes, I have complete confidence in Judge Boasberg to handle the most challenging cases that the Trump administration or any litigant can throw at him. And yet, here is what Donald Trump just said about Judge Boasberg. Recognize, friends, that Judge Boasberg was first appointed as a judge in the D.C. Superior Court, the Superior Court for the District of Columbia, by George W. Bush. Keep that in mind. Here is Trump's post. This radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, yes, to the federal bench, but he was first appointed by President George W. Bush, who was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president. He didn't win the popular vote by a lot. He didn't win all 7 swing states. He didn't win anything. I won for many reasons. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. Now, friends, let's set aside for the moment that Donald Trump just gave a speech to the Department of Justice the other day saying anybody who criticizes a judge should be prosecuted. Donald's every word and his every post is a self-indictment. What I want to turn to now is a very rare statement that was issued by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Roberts, actually responding to Donald Trump's blather and his bullshit and his dangerous rhetoric and his call to impeach judges who rule against him. This is what Chief Justice Roberts said. For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. Friends, can I translate that from Supreme Court Justice speak to English? That is essentially Chief Justice Roberts telling Donald Trump, regarding these calls for impeachment of judges whose rulings you disagree with, shut the hell up. Donald Trump is endangering the safety of judges. He did it to Judge Tanya Chutkan. He did it to Judge Juan Merchan. He did it to Judge Lewis Kaplan. And now he's doing it to Judge James Boasberg. Donald Trump is threatening the independence of the judiciary. Donald Trump is trying to wield dictatorial power. And now, friends, I certainly don't always agree with Chief Justice John Roberts, but when he says regarding Donald Trump's call to impeach judges whose rulings he disagrees with, when he says for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. When he says that, you bet I agree with Chief Justice Roberts. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.